Hi, Josh.
Hey, Gino.
Thanks for welcoming me out here to have a look-see at Wisconsin Beach Preservation Fund and the progress you guys are making.
Great.
We were on our way over to take a look at the geotube area, but you had me stop here. Can you tell us a little bit about this area behind you?
Yeah, I was just saying that in this specific location right here, this is 85 Baxter Road. This is now an empty lot, as you can see. Now, 2 years ago, the erosion got so bad that the house that was on this lot had to be moved, and it was actually moved to Monomoy and rebuilt there. I was looking at the statistics, and in 1991, this lot and this house was the most high-valued, highest assessment house on Baxter Road. If it had increased at the same value, at the same rate that other homes at Southern Baxter Road away from erosion, if it had increased at that level, it would be worth $12 million here. Now it's worth zero. It's paying zero taxes in addition. The lot, as you can see, is narrow. It used to go out about 100 feet further.
100 feet.
About 100 feet. Each of these lots along Baxter Road were set up to be about 150 feet deep. There's 50 feet left.
So if it was 100 feet long ago, why continue? I mean, isn't it going to continue to erode at that rate?
Oh,
and even though
it will erode if nothing is done. The question is there anything that can be done that's practical and that's environmentally sound? That's been the question. That's still the question, and we think we've got a pretty good solution to that right now. Along the edge of all of these houses was an open public bluff walk that went from the village all the way to the lighthouse. It now goes about halfway and it stops, and because of the erosion, you have to get back out to Baxter Road. Come on this side of the stand.
Okay.
All right. So now you can see at the base of the bluff the slightly darker sand, which is bermed up at the toe of the bluff. That's covering 3 layers of so-called geotubes, which are very large. Think of them as very large sand-filled sausages. The sausages are 200 feet long, 8 feet tall, 20 feet wide, and there's 3 stair steps of them at the toe of the bluff. And then the whole thing is covered with sand. So in big waves, the sand would wash away, but the underneath geotubes would hold the toe of the bluff in place and prevent it from being undermined and prevent the sliding, which you see, from continuing. So as long as those geotubes are there and are intact, it's going to hold the toe of that bluff. It actually needs to have a 4th tier on top, but the Conservation Commission did not allow us to put that in at this time. We'll be asking for that at some future point, but that's the way it was designed.
So you said the solution, the environmentally safe solution, that seems to be the biggest issue. Right?
Yeah.
That's what you're running up against.
Well,
I mean, the sand, the amount of sand that did you know that you'd have to use this much sand?
Yeah.
To keep them covered?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
The idea is if you protect the toe of the bluff and you don't put any sand, then you're preventing the sand that would have washed away naturally from going wherever it was going to go. It stays in the bluff. So we cover the tubes with the amount of sand that would have washed away. And so we expect that sand to wash away. And so the same amount of sand is washing away as otherwise would have. And so hence we think that's an environmental responsible way of going about doing this and not taking anybody's sand away from them. So we protect the bluff and we provide the sand at the same time.
What I've heard is that the issue might be in the quality of the sand.
No, I don't
think sand that is not the same sand that's supposed to be part of the bluff.
Well, no, I haven't heard that.
Right.
Most people recognize that geologically speaking, Nantucket is a sandbar, and the sand in one place is pretty similar to the sand in another place. We test the sand, make sure it's the correct grain size so that it's so-called beach compatible, similar sand. So that's not the problem. The question some people raise is, will this sand always be available? How can we afford to deliver it every year? What happens if we stop delivering it? And those kinds of questions. And we have good answers for all those concerns.
Now, the spot that these geotubes are in, I mean, I'm not seeing any big homes that it's protecting. Was this just is this a trial period for
Yeah.
these geotubes?
Yeah, that's a good question. We want to put in this kind of a system from the lighthouse all the way down to where the erosion continues, which is about a 3,500-foot section. This is a 900-foot section that was installed this winter, and the reason it was put here is because this is where the bluff is the closest to the road, and if it continues to erode, the road might have to be closed, and that would strand people and cause infrastructure difficulties. They'd have to find another way to get into the houses that would otherwise be stranded. And so we said, let's just do an emergency project protecting the most vulnerable part of the road first, get everybody hopefully used to the idea that this can be done effectively, and then we will be asking for it to be expanded.
When do you think that might happen?
Hopefully within the next year.
Yeah. All right, so global warming.
Global warming.
And the plight that we will face. Apparently we are going to have to face.
Absolutely.
A higher sea level.
Absolutely.
The rest of the island's going to get affected, and these will be here.
Well, I think that the age of climate change and sea level rise is with us. It's not really a question of if, it's here already. And so the question really is, what are we going to do about it, and whether there's anything that can reasonably be done about it. You know, there's certainly some people who feel that the proper way to deal with this is to admit that nobody can stop Mother Nature and that we will wash away, and that's the fate of Nantucket. Our feeling is, if there are things that can reasonably be done to prolong Nantucket, preserve Nantucket for some reasonable amount of additional time, it's worth doing. That is what people have done in human societies since the beginning of history. And as long as we're not doing harm in trying to protect this community, we think it's a reasonable thing to do, and we think that maybe there'll be things that we can learn that will be of use elsewhere on Nantucket.
But if you put in 3 more sections, I mean, aren't you already getting some pushback by truck traffic that you're getting here and the amount of sand that you're having to put on it? Some neighbors are a little concerned about that. If you had 3 times the size of this thing, the amount of sand that you'd have to use would be quite a bit.
Yeah, it is a lot of sand, but we were able to deliver all the sand we needed this spring in 2 full days and 2 half days. We're actually able to deliver at 2.5 times the rate of speed. We're getting good at this sand delivery. It certainly has some small disruptive effect, but it can be off-season. It can be in January and in April and in November. It doesn't need to be in the summer. And so,
unless there's a storm.
No. Even with a storm, we aren't going to come back again until November. We're ready to handle 3 or 4 storms.
Okay.
Because even if the geotubes are exposed in a storm, the extra sand that's on top gets pushed down into the front of and recovers those geotubes. So yes, it's a lot of sand, but we think that it is a sustainable system in the long run. There is a group of people who are very concerned about this, no question about it, Gino. But the neighborhood here, with only one exception that I'm aware of, is completely in support of this effort. And
what about
we think that most people on Nantucket actually feel that this is something that should be tried, that we can learn from. It's 100% paid for with private money, and that simply saying we're going to watch Nantucket wash away. It isn't what we're doing in the jetties. We're raising the jetties. We're dredging the harbor. There are things that pretty much everybody agrees should be done, and we think that this should be added to the list.
Are you concerned with the Concom's position?
Well, the Concom has raised some concerns. We think we've answered most of the concerns for the Concom, and we're hopeful that the Concom will continue to vote in favor of allowing the project. And it's a big science experiment that they'll allow it to continue to go forward.
All right, thanks for talking with me, Josh.
Thank you, Gino. Thanks for coming out and covering this issue.